And a very good afternoon. This is vk3sl. Welcome to the dinner missions here on 160 metres FM. What is that right? 160 metres in the FM mode. We're here because we're here and it's raining outside and the chooks are away and we've got missions tonight. I have to make this point because tonight's a special night. Frank and I will be co-hosting with Mr. Jamie, who will be sharing some of his remarkable collection with us. So yes, we'll be standing by at midnight tonight. So get up, put the alarm on and tune in to 1868 kilohertz or 147.475 megahertz. You can tune in or you can listen online. It's a streaming service as well. You can look up my call sign vk3sl as a YouTube channel, and it is streaming right now actually as well. So there's the other place to go to, and that's where you go to if you want to be entertained, of course. Disclaimer now made. All right. I've got a few things I've got to do, so I'm not going to be quite as active in the booth this afternoon. I will be listening as things go, but I noticed there is some more Prozoot that wasn't apparent to me before, so I'm keen to have a listen. So what shall we do? We will find it and advance the fader. Let's have a look. Looking for, yes, the music of Lewis Russell, recordings made for Okaya in 1929. There's quite a few tunes here. It's one of his aggregate files, and it'll be, they'll sound amazing. Okaya records from this period just sounded incredible. And his remastering is something of a wonder. All right, so let's go. Prozoot and Lewis Russell's Orchestra from 1929. VK3SL testing. listening to the music of Lewis Russell and his orchestra, recordings made for Okaya back in 1929. Interesting character, Lewis Russell. He was a really prominent dance band leader for a while, and he originally came from Panama, I think. Yeah, and he won the lottery, which enabled him to migrate to the US. So there we go, all on the lottery ticket, and he became a very respected. And he fronted bands with Red Allen and Louis Armstrong, and made a lot of recordings for Okaya, all before 1930. Then he recorded for some smaller labels for a little while, and he kept on going and died in the 60s, I think, or late 50s. So there we go, Mr. Russell, Kira Prozoot. That's got the ball rolling. Now we've got an OTR disc on. This is sort of anticipating the late night missions tonight. Just a reminder that we are testing late tonight from 11:30, and at 12 o'clock we'll dial up Zoom, and hopefully everything will run to plan, and we'll have Frank and Jamie with us, and we'll see what magical, mysterious places we can head off to. Maybe we can teleport to. I think that's the way. Yes, I always feel like I'm teleporting somewhere with Jamie's remarkable collection at hand and his wisdom. So it should be a really good missions. All right, then, we'll have a listen now to another episode of Doctors Courageous. So this is one of these 16-inch vinyl pressings. What is it? Grace Gibson Productions. I think it's Australian, but we might be able to clarify that tonight. We might be able to get some more information. And we'll see what happens. But I've been quite impressed with the series, and there's a few of them here. I've got the right speed this time. This is vk3sl testing.
Frederick Grant Banting was only 31 years old when he made the discovery which was to make him famous and end the suffering of millions all over the world. Even in his medical school days, Banting was interested in the study of that then unfathomable problem, diabetes, and discussed it with one of the lecturers at Toronto University, Professor MacLeod.
Quite a lot of other men have been baffled by diabetes, Banting. I assure you that we haven't been just sitting down and thinking about it either. There's a man in Berlin who's been on the same subject for nearly 20 years.
But now that we know of the connection between the pancreas and diabetes...
But what is the connection? We know certainly that when the pancreas of a dog was removed, he developed diabetes. But why? That's the question.
Well, isn't it fairly obvious that there must be some substance in the pancreas that prevents diabetes? And doesn't it prove that that substance must be missing in the pancreas of a diabetic?
Look here, Banting. I'm just the fellow who provides you youngsters with facts. Don't ask me to start theorizing for you.
That's a pretty interesting subject for research, though.
Yes, it should certainly give you a lifetime interest. Come on, Banting, you will lecture in 10 minutes. And if I remember rightly, it has nothing to do with diabetes.
When Banting graduated from the University of Toronto in 1916, he went to London and continued with his studies. He received his London degree in 1918 and returned to Toronto to take up a practice. He began to work on the problem of diabetes and called the aid of an old friend of his university days, Charles Best.
It's all very well to talk about these experiments, old boy, but how are you going to start? I mean, after a bit you'll get very fed up with the sight of a pancreas.
I'm going to try to isolate the substance that protects the human body against diabetes.
Sounds easy. Where are you going to do it? In the dining room of your house?
Oh, don't act the fool, Charlie. This is serious. Oh, well, we'll find a laboratory somewhere.
Now I know you're crazy. We're just a couple of struggling doctors looking for patients. We haven't enough money to open a lab.
Oh, we can find an old shed somewhere to begin with.
I'm afraid I'm not made of the stuff the Curies were made of, Fred. It sounds pretty awful to me, working in a shed.
Okay. I'll work on my own.
Now, wait a minute. Don't be hasty. I'm just trying to read some common sense into this idea, Fred.
Common sense? Ye gods.
Listen to me for a minute. We're both pretty young, and we're just starting out in practice. I know that your practice isn't any more successful than my own at the moment. In other words, we're both broke.
Quite broke.
Right. If we begin experimenting on this thing, there's every chance that we'll forget we ever had a practice. We'll just go on working night and day in a shed. Where does the money come from when we wake up some morning and discover that our patients have all disappeared because we lost interest in them?
We won't lose interest. We'll only do the research in our spare time.
How soon can we find this place to work in?
I'll begin looking for it tomorrow.
The two young doctors began work immediately. It was no easy task they'd taken upon themselves. Both were more or less poverty-stricken, and their practices, in a city where so many older and more experienced men practiced, were almost non-existent. But undeterred, they proceeded with the research.
Now look here, we've got this far. We know already that the external juices of the pancreas destroy the internal secretion of the island of Langerhans.
Silly to think of the islands of Langerhans being the cells of a pancreas. They sound all romantic, don't they? Make you think of grass skirts and
Will
coolers.
you shut up and listen to me?
I'm way ahead of you. We know that the external juices of the pancreas destroy the internal secretion of the islands when they're extracted together.
Well, look here. Suppose we could separate them. Then there wouldn't be a chance of that substance being destroyed.
Sounds all right. How are we going to separate them, though?
I don't know.
You know, I had a sort of idea you didn't.
Oh, come and help me with this dissecting, will you?
Animal after animal was experimented on, but they could get no closer to a solution of their problem. Banting had completely forgotten the existence of his practice. Quite suddenly, he discovered that the problem of his own future had become momentarily a little more important than his search for a cure for diabetes. He accepted a lectureship post at the university. During the winter, he worked continually at medical school during the day and in the laboratory at night. The strain began to have its effect, and Best became so worried that he tried to persuade Banting to give up the experiments.
You're killing yourself, Fred. That's no good.
Well, if it wasn't for these beastly lectures, I wouldn't mind. This morning I talked to my class for half an hour without having any idea of what I was talking about.
Why don't you take a rest for a bit?
I can't, Charlie. I've got a feeling that we're going to get somewhere with this diabetes business. Every morning when I come in here, I feel that the day's going to bring us just a little closer to it. I hate to waste even one day.
In a few minutes they were back at work, trying to reason out why it was that the animals in their laboratory all contracted diabetes when the pancreas was removed. The months that followed brought little success. Banting's ceaseless work had, by that time, so undermined his health that Best called Professor MacLeod to persuade him against working any further.
I told you once before not to meddle with things that you can't possibly work out, Fred.
I suppose I should have taken your advice, sir.
Well, it isn't too late to take it now.
I can't give up now, sir. Not after having got this far.
Well, it's this or your job with the university, Fred. You can't do both. Your work up there's beginning to suffer already.
Oh, I didn't realize that, sir. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to be so brutal about it. But there it is. You'll have to choose between the two.
I see.
Suppose you give this up for a few weeks, Fred. I'll carry on while you're away, and then when you come back...
He won't be coming back, Dr. Best. If he gives up the research now, he gives it up entirely. Or at least during the time that he's a member of our faculty.
Ah, I see.
Think about it, Fred.
Yes, sir, I will.
You mind if I have a look round here?
Oh, of course not, sir. It's in pretty much of a mess.
Where do you keep your animals?
In the next room. We were working on this new theory of Fred's when you came.
Oh? What's that?
Well, Fred thinks that it's the internal secretions of the islands of Langerhans that supply the deficiency in diabetes.
Oh? How do you make that out, Fred?
Well, it stands to reason, sir. We know that there's some substance in the pancreas that prevents diabetes.
Of course, that's why the disease is developed when the pancreas is removed.
I think if we could separate the secretion, we'd find it to be the substance we're looking for.
Yeah, that's common sense. How do you think you can separate it?
I don't know. That's what I'm working on now.
Now, let's see. If you... look here, how far have you got with it?
I'm working on a new angle of dissection tonight.
You mind if I stay and watch you?
Not at all.
Where can I put my coat?
I'll take it, sir.
Now listen, Fred. I have an idea. Suppose you approach it from the angle of... No, that's no good. We'll have to think of something else, Fred.
We, sir?
All right, don't laugh. Yes, we. I'm going to work with you.
But his classes...
Oh, hang his classes. Look here, Fred. We better get this straightened out.
Professor MacLeod now became their close ally, working with them and adding his knowledge and experience to their enthusiastic research. Their experiments continued under much improved conditions, but still they seemed no nearer than ever to the realization of their dreams. Then one night, Banting was working on a lecture which he was to deliver to his class the following morning. It was his favourite subject, diabetes.
Don't you think you'd better turn in, Fred?
I can't, Charlie. I don't dare go to my class without the stuff prepared.
You can't do any more work tonight.
My head's a maze of theories, case histories, and experiments.
Come on, give it up and turn in. Probably it'll all straighten itself out in the morning, and you'll be able to go ahead without notes.
Yes, I guess so. And I think I will turn in.
Right. Good night.
Good night, old boy.
Banting slept soundly until about 2 in the morning. Then suddenly he awakened, and his brain was strangely clear. Clearer than it had been during all the months of hard work. He reached for the notebook on the table beside his bed, wrote 3 sentences, and went back to sleep again.
Hey, Fred, wake up.
Huh?
Wake up, breakfast's ready.
Oh, go away.
You're lecturing in half an hour's time.
Lecturing? Oh, gosh, yes. My notes aren't done, are they?
No, come on, get up. Leave that notebook alone. You can't start working now.
I wasn't going to. I just wanted to have a look at the notebook.
Why?
Early this morning, I woke up and thought of something to do with the experiment. I wrote it down.
What was it?
I haven't the slightest idea.
Oh, don't be crazy, Fred. You must have dreamt that you woke.
No, I didn't. Here are the notes I made.
They probably don't make sense.
No, I suppose not. Tie off pancreatic ducts of animals.
What?
That's what I wrote. Tie off pancreatic ducts. Good Lord! Charlie, we've got it.
That's the way to separate the secretion.
Of course.
What else did you write?
Wait 6 or 8 weeks for degeneration. Remove residue and extract.
Ye gods, it's uncanny. Don't you honestly remember writing those words?
Of course not. I knew I wrote something. I didn't know what it was. Charlie, it's straight going if this works.
I'm going to phone the professor.
The 3 doctors tied off the pancreatic ducts of the animals with which they were experimenting and waited for results.
If this dog doesn't get diabetes, we shall know that you are right about the secretion, Fred. Now, with the ducts tied off, the external juices can't have any effect.
They waited 8 weeks for the degeneration of the pancreas, and after that time found that the islands of Langerhans in the pancreas were still unaffected.
Now, all we have to do is to extract the islands. If the dog gets diabetes, we know that we've found a cure.
When the residue of the pancreas was extracted after the degeneration, the dog at once developed diabetes.
Now we'll inject some of this stuff back into him and see whether it has any effect.
The secretion extracted from the pancreas was injected into the bloodstream of the diabetic animal. With only a few doses, it began to recover and finally was cured of diabetes.
We've found it. We've actually found it. It's the cure for diabetes.
Insulin had been discovered. That substance which soon was to save the lives of millions of sufferers from diabetes in every part of the world.
Now, I've got a theory. I reckon if I keep looking through these Doctors Courageous transcription records, we might find the corona cure. I reckon it's here on one of these discs. I'm pretty sure it is. So I'll go through them all, and I reckon we're onto something. Now, don't tell anybody. I'm going to just write this on a notepad and look at it tomorrow and see if it makes sense. There we go. The corona cure via Doctors Courageous. This is vk3sl test missions on 160 metres narrowband FM mode. And we shall continue with another vinyl record. Now, it's been for some time I've been wanting to play this and I just haven't got organised. In fact, I didn't know where the LP was, but I pulled a whole stack of LPs out off the shelf, and amongst them all is the Alban Violin Concerto. It's a serial piece. Berg studied with Schoenberg, so he was quite excited by the 12-tone techniques and serialism, and so he was a master of that format. And this is a late work of Alban Berg. He didn't last long after this. He was writing it at the same time as he was writing Lulu, one of his great operas. Anyhow, he was sort of going in fits and starts writing this piece, and then he got inspired because he was very sad to hear the death of Manon Gropius, who was Alma Mahler's, that's Gustav Mahler, famous conductor, composer Mahler. Alma Mahler was Mahler's wife, and they divorced, and then Mahler hung out with Walter Gropius, who was a great architect. And they had a kid who was Manon Gropius, and she was apparently a very well-to-do woman, and she died tragically from polio at the age of 18. Now, Berg was a bit obsessed with her. He sort of had a crush on her, I think. And it's all very sad. After she passed away, he wrote this concerto, and he said, "In Memory of an Angel" is the subtext to this work. It's a beautifully crafted work, and it is inspired music. And it was originally from a commission from Louis Krashner, who was an American fiddle player. Now, it's interesting because it does embrace the 12-tone technique, and it is sort of fundamentally serialist in its construction, but there's a lot of implicit tonality. And it's interesting how that occurs. So it's actually considered to be quite romantic in its writing. It sort of draws on 19th century romantic textures at least, and this implicit tonality, I think that's what the ear wants to hear. It's like when you look at white noise on the screen, you'll see pictures, or if you listen to white noise, you'll hear things. Well, in perhaps in a slightly less pronounced way, the implicit tonality draws you in. It's very effective. There is the first three notes of the tone row make up the G minor triad. Anyhow, there's a tone row, and that's the way serialism works. There's 12 notes, and they're in a particular order, and that sort of manifests throughout. But there is a G minor triad in there. I won't go on. I had to analyse this work at uni, and I loved it. I've always enjoyed it. So, yep, it'll get its first airing on these missions now. We'll have a listen to Alban Berg's Violin Concerto. This is a recording with Pierre Boulez conducting some orchestra, not sure, but it's with Yehudi Menuhin as the soloist. A recording made in the 1960s. This is vk3sl testing. This is a test transmission from vk3sl. So Marlerian. Yes, one of the most beautiful endings in Western art music, really. That was the Berg Violin Concerto. And as often in the case with Mahler, the music just evaporates, just disappears into nothingness. And did you hear the Bach cantata? I think it's cantata 60. Yes, is Genug. You hear the chorale played by the fiddle and then orchestrated, and then it was sort of disambiguated and became a part of the texture. So moving, so beautifully written, and a work devoted to Manon Gropius, who was the daughter of Alma Mahler and Walter Gropius. Now, I did mention earlier on that Alma Mahler divorced Gustav Mahler, but that's not the case. He died in 1911, and then she ended up marrying Walter Gropius a couple of years later. Manon Gropius, who was the dedicee of that concerto, was born in 1916, but she died young. And yeah, remarkable piece. Anyhow, I will come back to that for certain. I'd like to sort of embrace this work again. I think it's a profound piece of music. All right, let's turn the disc over and we'll hear something else. The side B of this World Record Club record, released in the 60s, featuring Yuri Menuhin and Pierre Boulez. Side B features the music of Bartók and two of his Romanian rhapsodies. And Bartók, unlike the second Viennese school, which sort of embraced serialism, he really looked at the folk origins of music and used that as a catalyst, as a point of inspiration in his writing. So have a listen, hear the contrast. Two composers that lived almost concurrently but had a very different musical vision. And just a word to remind people that tonight we should be, hopefully, all being well, we'll have a late night missions with Frank and with Jamie. Jamie has got one of the most wonderful collections, and he's very, we just feel, very grateful to him that he's prepared to share it with us, and we have the opportunity to chat with Jamie and hear some selections from his collections, so that'll be good. Looking forward to it very much. After midnight tonight on 1868 kilohertz and also 147.475. We transmit on two frequencies in the late night missions on Fridays, and of course there is the streaming service as well. So you can go to that if you want to be entertained, and of course that's under my call sign, and there's a blog spot that goes with all of that. That's vk3sl.blogspot.com. That's where you can head if you want to find out how to contact me or any details and schedules and what have you. And I often say that these missions are just an indulgence. There's nothing, I'm not trying to make anything more of it than what it is. It's just a musical expression, and if people feel incensed or feel uncomfortable or feel it contravenes their notion of what amateur radio should be, feel free to communicate with me, and I'm happy to have a discussion with you. All right, let's move on. vk3sl testing, and let's listen to the music of Bartók. This is a test transmission from vk3sl. We just heard the Hootie Menuhin and the BBC Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Pierre Boulez, recordings made in the 60s of Bartok's Rhapsodies, both the Rhapsodies, and very much folk-inspired music. Well, I think we'll find something else that's a bit folk-inspired, but slightly more improvisatory in nature. I'm just going to clean the stylus. And looking through piles of LPs and looking for missions fodder, and I've got another one in my hand here, and it says George Zamfir and Marcel Cellier, flute de pan et orgue and improvisation. So I wonder what this will have in store. I always enjoy George Zamfir's music. This is volume 3 from a series, so I wonder if it's material that it's currently listened to. Who knows? vk3sl testing. vk3sl, I was out rescuing the pizza out of the pizza oven, and the record finished. That's great music, isn't it? The music of George Zamfir on the pan flute. And who's the organist? It's Marcel Cellier. That's volume 3. I could have sworn the first track came from the what's the famous film? We all know what it is. Anyhow, we'll just quickly click on this and find the spot. Picnic at Hanging Rock, of course. All right then, folks, we'll wind at this point, and should be back tomorrow, see how things go, but definitely there tonight. Tune in at 11:30, and at midnight will be, hopefully, all being well, we'll have Jamie and Frank as co-hosts, and we'll have one wondrous OTR journey. That's the plan. vk3sl, test missions on 160. Thanks again, and catch you soon.